Hey, this is your Made Free Life podcast with your host, Shawn Boone, where we have weekly conversations about faith, freedom, and adventure. All right, we're back. Episode 2 of our brand new podcast, The Made Free Life. And I got my good friend Travis here with me again today. And we have been having a series of conversations talking about purpose. And last week we kicked it off with seasons. We talked about the different seasons in our lives, how they look, the importance of making sure we're not trying to fit one in a specific mold, but letting it flow into what it's supposed to be. Some of the seasons that have been the hardest for us, the most challenging, but we're leaning into this idea about purpose, and how many of us, I think, including myself, have found myself in seasons where, what am I really doing, man? Why am I here? I think everybody's asked that question.
I think I've asked that question. As a pastor, it's like,
why
I ask that every day.
What am I doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
This is
Or if you have a 3-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
I ask myself that every time I keep my son.
I ask you what you were doing.
Jude, who does this at 50?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
And so purpose can be just making it through the day with this guy.
Yeah.
But
not only at times do I not know what I'm doing, I often wonder, what are you doing? And so when it comes to purpose, man, I don't think it's not an answer to a problem, so to speak, but it's an invitation to go on a journey with Jesus.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I've settled in my soul is that I'm going to steward each day, each moment, each opportunity to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has brought me such peace and encouragement was looking into the life of David.
Yeah.
David could have been anxious. He could have been offended. He could have been hurt whenever his father, Jesse, left him in the field to tend sheep whenever the prophet Samuel came to his father's house to anoint the next king. But through David's life, it taught me that what God has prepared for us, he's also preserved for us.
Yeah,
that we don't have to be anxious. We don't even have to get upset or offended or worried. We just got to steward the moment that God has given us in such a way that we can have confidence that he who has begun a good work in us is faithful to complete it. And so that means getting into agreement with what God has called us to do today. And here's where a lot of us miss it. We think it's insignificant.
Yeah.
Because I'm not being led to be sat on the throne. I'm just tending sheep.
Yeah.
But it is significant because kings are developed in pastures, not palaces.
Yeah.
And so it gives me comfort. Even in my unknown, I know God has planted me, in such a way that I'm just going to steward the moment. And can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Okay. I picked up my daughter and her 3 friends, they're triplets. I was like, man, I really
don't want to pick 3 of them up.
Yeah, a truck full of girls.
4 teenage girls.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, and so they get it. They all get in my vehicle. I start it, and immediately Cyndi Lauper comes on. Girls just want, oh snap!
Yeah,
they're like, turn it up.
Oh, they knew it.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
they knew it, and they're all singing it, and I'm a girl dad, and I remember the Holy Spirit said, I got you right where I want you. And it's like, it don't feel like it. This is awkward. But God gives us these little winks like, hey,
yeah, for sure,
enjoy it. You're right where I called you to be.
Yeah, that's good, man. For some of you that don't know the story of David, maybe you've never picked up a Bible, I think purpose in itself, this idea, can be scary. I think it can be frustrating. I think it can be, it's one of the things that I find when I pastored and outside of that, just being a normal dude, that I think that most of humanity struggles with. Why am I here?
Oh, yeah.
Whether they're on the spectrum of faith or not, whether they believe that there is or do not believe, there's just this idea of why am I here? What am I doing? And am I doing it right?
Yeah.
And I think that is something that's kind of like in us.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of those things that has been put in us from our Creator, I believe. And so it's navigating those seasons and navigating those times and places and spaces of like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now? And I think that's what we were kind of talking about last week, is not putting so much pressure. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, not put so much pressure on, trying to define or trying to get it all figured out, but just enjoying that moment. And I think for me, that's one of the hardest things in my personality, is being present in the moment. Like last weekend, it was being present with the kids while we were trying to fish, and one of them's tangled up over here, one of them's fallen in the, on purpose, fallen in the pond because...
But did you catch any fish?
No fish, no. All I caught was a headache and a bunch of grief, but no, it was a great... I had to remind myself it wasn't about the fish, though we're fishermen and we want to bring home fish, but it was about the journey and it was about the adventure. And my daughter says to me, Dad, I haven't been fishing in so long, and thank you for taking me. And so there was the win. It was my daughter just enjoyed being out there. And so, I think it's just being present in that moment and learning that you don't have to have it all figured out on this thing called life, this journey, that sometimes I find that I don't get the whole picture. And I don't know if any people do. I just get the next step. And so it's learning to just, trust God with the next step. And like right now, it's the podcast. Right now, I'm doing some other things personally. I'm in school. I'm going back to do something I should have done a long time ago. And so it's just that step. And, I don't know where the end of that's going to go. I don't know where that journey is going to take me, but I just believe that God's given me the next step. And so my purpose right now is being a father, being a business owner, being a nuisance to most people, whatever it is. I'm just going to be present in that. Yeah.
Well, and also being able to acknowledge, roadblocks.
Yeah.
Hang-ups and distractions and, those things that can come against our purpose, can steal our joy, can rob us of vision and focus. Because after all, the adversary, the enemy, he's after that, man. If you ever get on the path of purpose, come on, you can stay so focused on what God is doing in your life that you don't have no time for low-level devils. And when your life consists of more than just yourself, just my fulfillment or my pleasure, and you start making a difference in other people's lives, then you start going on this journey of faith and fulfillment that supersedes what you could experience just by making a living. I think maybe I've had this thought, and it was like, man, I know that I was created for more than just making money.
For sure.
I was created to make a difference. And it is so many people, they're unsuccessfully successful. And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, you could have all the accolades and all the achievement and all the money, all the fame, but yet you feel so empty.
100%.
And so there's a lot of people out there, maybe you're there in your journey is like, man, you just feel like all you were created for was to make a living. No, you were created to make a difference, that God uniquely made you, that your design, the reason you like things and dislike things and enjoy certain things is because God designed you uniquely and wonderfully, and your design gives you a glimpse into your destiny. And so lean into that, and it takes really cultivating a relationship with Christ to be able to unpack those things that are on the inside of us. I didn't know why I was such a good arguer. Well, what made me a good arguer? Like, I would present my case as a teenager why I should be able to do something. Well, God uses that to present the case for Christ. That helps me, that helps me navigate on a platform. Or to be able to tell a story, or my imagination. Dude, as a kid, my imagination, I could play with myself all by myself, like all day long. Hey, listen. Whoa. Only you. But it helps me when I'm reading biblical stories. I get lost in them. I put myself in them, and it comes out on a platform that other people can receive.
I want to touch right there. I think first and foremost, going back to what you said is, if you don't realize that this, like I say this all the time, if your life and all your goals and your dreams and all of the things that you aspire to, if it's all about you and includes only you, it's a pretty boring, pretty unfulfilled life.
It's pathetic.
It really is. And so for me, purpose has been in the season, if we want to talk about seasons, and it has always been since, I came to this place in my life that I realized my life isn't really about Shawn. It's about others. It is inspiring and encouraging others. Someone asked me the other day, well, you're not a pastor anymore, so what do you do? I said, I just want to encourage and inspire somebody every day to not give up, that there's hope, and that there's freedom, that there is this word freedom, and I'm not just talking about in a patriotic way, though. I believe and agree with that too. We're experiencing that as well. But I'm saying there's personal freedom.
Yeah.
And it's an adventure. That's the made free life, faith, freedom, and adventure. And that when we come to faith and we understand that we're here for a reason, that there's a freedom that begins to happen in our lives, and that freedom begins to take us on an adventure. And that's the fun, man, is not knowing where that adventure is going to take you, but being free in that to understand that you ain't got to have it all figured out, man. All you have to do is trust the process. And in that process, man, there's going to be some valleys, there's going to be some mountaintop experiences, there's going to be some challenges, setbacks, but there's also going to be some setups and some victories and some monumental moments that we can look back on and go, wow, look what God has done. Look what has transpired in my life when I took my hands off the wheel, when I took, essentially I quit trying to control and be the driving force, and I just said, hey, God, just use me at whatever, and that's kind of been my thing, is just giving that whole thing over to Him. And again, going back, for somebody like me that many of you probably know, I pastored 20 years, and not doing that anymore, it's been one of those things that was really hard for me when I resigned from full-time ministry in 2018. I didn't know what to do with myself, because all I knew was I was a pastor, and it was almost like I was identifying with a title, and what do I do now, because this is all I've ever done. But looking back now, I say this a lot, like, there wasn't no thought outside of the box when I got born again and saved. It was like, you become a pastor or an evangelist, and I knew I didn't want to live in a third world country. I knew that wasn't something I was called to do. I didn't have a desire for that. I knew that, I wanted to help people. Kind of like I always say, I was just another beggar pointing to the other beggars where the bread was. But if somebody would have said, Shawn, you got a radical story, dude, I think you could use social media, I think you could do a podcast, I don't know that I would have just started a church. But there was no thinking outside of the box. It was, you start a church if you want to help people grow and know God. And there is. But I'm just saying that everybody doesn't have to do that. So I'm finding out now that honestly, I would say my churches were 200 plus, which is not bad for America. I think the average church, you'd probably agree, 75. In America, we learned a new church plant. But I have a way more reach now through just social media. 7,000 people look at some of the stuff I say and do. So the reach is greater when we start thinking outside the box sometimes, and it's a fit. Like, when you heard me, I didn't always respond the best with the Sunday in, Sunday out stuff, because really I wanted to be out there on my surfboard or be somewhere else and enjoying creation, but I was kind of like, I gotta be here and so do you. I enjoyed teaching, enjoyed people, and I love community, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I found myself like thinking everybody else is having fun and I'm here doing this and this is my lot in life, kind of like it was a negative, until I found that, like, made free, I can do retreats and, walk with men and do all the things and feel free in that, not an obligation to that. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, even as a pastor myself, one of the things that I've really focused in on this season is help men come fully alive.
Yeah.
Because when I look, whether it be in the world or even in the church, that there are a lot of there are a lot of caged men, and there's a lot of different reasons why men are caged. And there's nothing sadder. Like when you go to the zoo, I can remember one moment, Michelle and I, we were at the zoo, and the silverback gorilla, it was like the exhibit, the ape was leaned back on the glass, and had its back. And I'm over there beating on that thing. I'm looking at this gorilla, right? And its biceps were almost as big as mine. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just huge. Like the shoulders, the traps.
Yeah, they're massive.
Massive. I mean, and it was up close, leaning on the glass, and I'm beating on the glass, trying to get it.
He's not paying you no mind.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was super cool, but then I started feeling super sad because I realized. Like this gorilla's life.
Wasn't made for this.
No, man. I mean, an exhibit that was no bigger than the size of my house.
Yeah.
And he had been like whittled down to just existing, to where I'm trying to get. I mean, I just wanted the gorilla to turn around and just pound that glass and be like, bro, if you do that, like I wanted it to be a gorilla.
Yeah.
But the reality is that this gorilla had been caged for so long. It stopped believing it was a gorilla. And I think there's a lot of men out there that have been caged for so long that you don't know what's in you.
Yeah, I would say that, man. There's many out there that are leaning in today, and you feel that you're caged. You feel that, you're just existing. I know I felt like that in seasons, like I'm just trying to make it to the next hour. Many of you know I lost my son a couple years ago, tragic, senseless murder. And there has been moments that I felt like if I can make the next 5 minutes, if I can survive that, I'll be doing good. Bump what, the next 5 weeks look like, or, the next year. It's just, man, I need to make it the next 5 minutes. And I literally felt like I'm just existing. Why am I here? Because of the immense grief and sorrow that we all experience in this life and on this earth. And so I do understand that. And if you look at my social media page, it says all men die. Few men ever really live. And I added, live free and enjoy the journey. Because I see so many men that are just punching the clock, going to work, coming home. Nothing wrong with those things. They're being faithful. They're committed to their family. But they're dead as a doornail inside. There's no adventure. There's no freedom. They're bound up. And they're just existing, man.
Yeah.
And we could take it a step further as Christians. I mean, how many Christians have you seen? I've seen, and we have been in seasons too, where we're just coming to church and we're checking in and we're paying our tithe and we're maybe serving in our church locally, but on the inside, we know there's more. Yeah. We know that there is so much more for us to experience, but we're just, by God, we're just being faithful. And there's a time to do all that, but I think there's more. And I think it's when we just shed all of the thoughts of what it should be and what we think and what the world is molded. And even the church has been really good at molding men. And I think we could go on a real tangent here of how we've emasculated men. And, Jesus is a Barney. He's the big purple dinosaur. And
he's William Wallace.
Exactly. If we were to be honest, Jesus isn't coming back like Barney. He's coming back like William Wallace. That's why I got, the lion and the lamb, because people ask me, well, why you got, the lion and the lamb? I said, because he came as the lamb slain before the foundation of the world, but he's coming back as the Lion of Judah. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a different Jesus.
Well, I mean, the average guy, and this is, typical, the average guy with the westernized American version image of Jesus, they actually think that they could whoop Jesus. Yeah, I don't know who you are, but you can't whip Jesus. I'm gonna tell you, there's not a man that can pin him. Yeah, hold him down, beat him. Yeah. He is a man's man, and even within the four walls of the church, we have just wanted to tame man. Sure. To cage a nice him. Man. And it doesn't mean that we're rude or we're aggressive. Right. Absolutely. But it does mean that we are wise enough to discern the times and when we need to be a lion and when we need to be a lamb. And so,
well, you should have a facet to you that every man should be able to become dangerous and violent if needed, but also controlling one's spirit.
Sure.
And I love that's what you said, knowing the time and the place for war.
Yeah.
And, Ecclesiastes says that there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. And there's a time that, a man is to fulfill what he was created to do. And sometimes it's not nice.
No, you pull out in front of me and do 10 miles under the speed limit, it's time for war.
You're going to see that side.
Yeah, you're going to see me. I'm a road bully.
For me, it's if you try to harm my family or infringe on me, like you try to tread on me and come into my space, it's not going to happen, buddy. And it's just one of those things that I have pre-decided that it's going to be me and my family over you, buddy, every time, every day of the week when it comes to that. And so I'm going to protect mine.
Absolutely.
And
you're called to.
Absolutely. I think there's 3 alienated things that God has put in since creation. I see from the Genesis account, and every man is to be a protector. He's to be a provider. And I don't know the third one. I just totally.
Well, a leader.
A leader. But the protection and the providing, man, is so important, because if you look at Adam, he was given all of this to work the ground and to provide for his family, and then he was also called to protect it and to protect what was his. And I think today that when you remove one of those, you kind of remove one of those alienated rights as a man. When you remove the right to protect and the right to provide.
Well,
and it makes a man feel like, there you go, talking about purpose. Like you feel men that's depressed, they lose their job, they're like, I can't provide for my family, or they feel like they can't protect adequately for their family. It just takes a part of a man away.
Sure, absolutely. Well, man's going to seek out an adventure.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to fight.
That's right. There's a battle to win.
Right.
But it's just choosing the right battle.
Right. And so we can see in creation that, there's no greater adventure than the adventure that humanity goes on, or man goes on with God.
Yeah.
You're going to fight for Eve.
Yeah.
And you're going to fight the right fight, the good fight of faith. And so as the church, we want to come along men who are caged, and we want to uncage them and invite them to go on the greatest adventure that they'll ever go on. And that's the adventure and the journey with Jesus. We want to help them fight the right battles, not the bar battle, we want them to fight the right battles, because if we do not cultivate and shepherd their souls in such a way that they know how to fight the right battle, they'll fight all the wrong ones.
Definitely,
if they do not understand that
you'll be engaged in everything.
Created to be in relationship with Eve, you'll try to find that in all these other places. And so as the church, we don't want to remove those things, because God has designed the masculine soul in such a way that you're not going to undo what God created. Right. But as a shepherd, as the local church, we want to point those men in the right direction so they can go on the right adventure, the right fight. And
in the same with a woman, the femininity of a woman is so diabolically different than a man, and God has revealed himself in femininity. He's revealed himself through the creation of Eve, as he has Adam, and so I think it's understand, and just a shameless plug for the book Wild at Heart captivating. If you haven't read John and Stacey Eldridge, if you're a man listening, and you need to read Vice Versa for sure, because if you're married. You want to know how a woman thinks. I mean, it's taken our whole lives to figure that out. Me too marriages later, and still haven't figured out, why a woman does and thinks the way she does. Did I just lose my women's audience?
No,
again?
they're still
hanging on.
Yeah.
But also, a woman wants to know, why does he do the things he does and think the way he does, and so I would definitely recommend those 2 books.
Absolutely.
Even if you're single, ladies, gentlemen out there, and you're looking to marry and you're desiring that, man, read those books, because that is going to help you really begin to understand how the complexity of the masculine soul and the feminine soul operates, and why it's so different, and why it's supposed to be different. Why little boys can't sit still in kindergarten, and the school board is upset trying to make them like Susie when they're wired for adventure. They just want to sword fight and push each other down.
You're going to take a kid that is going to see a stick in the shape of a gun.
Right.
And what's he going to do? He's going to pick up. Right. And he's going to shoot the bad guys, the imaginary.
Yeah. It's just what it is. It's just how they're wired, man. Yeah. And so, I think, this whole idea of purpose is something that it evolves, but it's also something that it sustains. When we begin to get an understanding of what it is, and it's got so many facets, it begins to fulfill our life in such a way that it no longer seems mundane. Mm-hmm. It no longer seems insignificant, if I could use lightly what you said. You know, and again, it could be the little things. It's taking your kids to school. I mean, I know me and you talk about this being dads. You know, you drive Grace to school most days, or some days, half the days, almost every day.
Every day.
And you're trying not to be on your phone. I know,
I'm never on.
Yeah, because you're like, this is a moment I'm not going to have forever. And some people say, oh, how's that significant? Those are conversations and times and places. And I know you guys like to turn the radio on and you do music trivia and stuff. Like, she's real big into music. You guys share.
She's a little sleepy in the morning.
Okay, so but she cranks up quick.
We're always listening to content, something encouraging. You know.
And so you guys are having conversations that she's going to remember. Growing up and early into marriage and on. My dad and I used to, because I remember my dad. He was a old classic rock guy. He was a biker, and he still is. He just doesn't ride his Harley anymore. He's in his late 70s now. But me and my dad, those were the things I remember when we would ride together in the old Jeep. We had a CJ7 77. He had, and the old 8-track. And I remember that, that far. And for those of you out there, that just dated me. And he'd put an 8-track in, and he'd say, what's the band and the song, and that's how I've gotten to learn so much music, was those times with my dad riding around, and he would quiz me, like, who's that, and what song is it? Or then we would listen to our favorite rock station out of Orlando, WDIZ, and we would do that trivia. And those are one of the fondest memories I have of my dad, other than working around the shop and stuff, was, because I'm a car enthusiast, because I was raised up around it, and I'm so grateful for that. But also just doing those moments where we would have, a ride to the grocery store, a ride to football practice, or whatever it was, or picking me up from school, that I'd go, oh, that's Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven, or, The Doors, or, whatever it was, the Eagles. And so that's given me a huge knowledge today of classic rock and stuff. But it was, more importantly, it was something that we both enjoyed doing. And it was purpose, and I'm sure my dad felt there's a sense of purpose in it. That at least he was bringing me up on good music.
I don't think it's classic rock anymore.
No, it's not.
It's the oldie.
Is that what they call it? The oldie?
I don't know. I don't listen to radio too much, but I hear classic rock, and I'm like, no, that's not classic rock.
Yeah, it's not.
Weezer.
It's 90s. Now today classic rock is nice, because if you have a 90s car, it's considered classic. You can get the blue tack now.
Oh, praise the Lord.
Yeah, 20 years, so, but I think that you can just close us out with some thoughts about purpose, Trav.
All right, well, let me just say this, and we'll end this, because if you didn't get anything out of this podcast, I want to leave you with this, that you were made on purpose, with a purpose, and for a purpose. And when you start discovering that, you become fully alive. Your life has a sense of significance, because the last thing you want to do is to succeed at something that you were never created to do. You know what I'm saying?
Man, that's good.
I don't want to succeed at something I was never called to do.
That's good.
I want to be successfully successful. And when I join this journey of faith with Jesus, and I understand that he has given me moments to steward, to enjoy, I come fully alive, and I can enjoy the things that he's given me. And so you were made on purpose, with a purpose, and for a purpose, and it wasn't just to make a living, it was to make a difference.
God bless you. We can end it there, man. Thanks. Appreciate that.